Okay, so I try to create a presentation about hypercerts, but of course I'm not an expert. I just did some research and talk a bit with Juan the last few days. So of course I will need your help at some point to gather some knowledge. But right now, so we will dive into hypercerts, and the objectives of this session is to do detailed research about a specific topic or project, which is today hypercerts. We will learn from each other's experiences and knowledge and gain hopefully actionable insights that can be applied to our projects. So welcoming with the meet, and we'll go to research presentation.
Wait.
Yeah, and then I can tell it now that we will do a group discussion. And at the end, during 15 minutes, we will do an exploration rating and improvement proposal of this session of fundraising is fun. Okay, so what is hypercerts? So what I've understood is it's an impact certificate issued by contributors, people who are creating impacts. It can be like founders or team members, every contributors of a project. And it represents the right to receive retroactive rewards. So it looks like this. Today they have an app, a pilot app, and we can see here a cover of an hypercert, and there are some important data on this hypercert. We can find the time of work when contributors work, when was their activities, when were their actions. Then we have the scope of work, what kind of work they did. Then we have the time of impact. So it's when will be the impact, but it can also be in the past. No, it's always in the future. The impact is always in the future, but I think it's a time of work. It can be in the past or in the future. Then you have the scope of impact, the description of the impact, and the rights of this hypercert, which is what the owner have as a right. In the different examples, they give an example like the rights of bragging, like you can display it on your internet, on your website, for example, or things like that. But actually, I don't know what kind of other rights you can have.
In the time of impact, it's like the moment when you create the hypercert, the impact has just happened, or it can be like, I think the impact will be in 1 year and I create the hypercert now. Is that possible?
Okay. Yeah. It's it can be in the future. You can say in 6 months there will be this impact.
Okay.
And you can also say, yes, I made a mistake. You can also say that the impact was like already happened.
So you did the work that is in the past, but the impact, it can be in the future.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, yeah. Other data that you can find on the hypercerts is the list of contributors and the list of owners. So you can have several owners because the hypercerts can be fractionalized. Okay, so then you have different roles. The first role is the contributors. So they create as many hypercerts as they want. So they claim an activity over a period of time and its impact in the past or in the future. So they call that contributors. Some people say issuers also. Then you have the funders. So they fund either prospectively before the impact happened or retrospectively after the impact happened. So they can either buy a fraction or the whole hypercert or an aggregation of hypercerts. For example, they give an example. For example, if the project IPFS would have created hypercerts, they would have created one for Q1 of 2020, for example, and then another hypercert for Q2 2020, and a third hypercert, and some a funder could have buy the first hypercert, or he could have bought 3 hypercerts, the 3 that made nearly all the year to create the IPFS.
Like a whole season.
Yeah,
Like
you
a
can buy
collection.
Yeah, like collections, right? And maybe we'll talk about it later, but it's here that it's a bit confusing. So funders can be also traders because they can exchange hypercerts, but there are also donors, people who can consider themselves as donors. And it's a bit weird because at the end they buy the hypercerts, so why we should call them donors? But the guy from hypercerts calls them donors also. So maybe we can talk about it later. Yeah. And the third role is evaluators. So I was a bit surprised because to me, evaluators, it's the most important role, but at the moment it's very blurry. It can be everything. It seems like it can be everything. Like, for example, it can be a creation of a panel of experts for a particular topic. Evaluators can use different methodology. They can interview the beneficiary of the public good. They can interview the contributors. It can be also a smart contract that looks the data automatically.
You mean that the role of the evaluator is done by a smart contract?
Yeah, yeah. And an hypercert can be evaluated several, I can't say it in French. It can be a multiple evaluation for one hypercert to track the work over time. And it can also be a self-assessment. So I suppose it can be only that, because if a contributor is self-assessing, it can say like, oh, it's really great. So I suppose that it can be only that. Yeah. Here we have a diagram that comes from some pitch decks that they did. So we can start with contributors. So they create public goods. In the same time, they can create an hypercert and receive funds for that. So these public goods will produce an impact. This impact will be observed by evaluators. Evaluators can also anticipate the impact of an hypercert if the impact is in the future. The evaluators will produce an impact evaluation and signals it to funders. and funders can either prospectively fund buy an hypercert. It means like they can buy the hypercerts before the impact, or retrospectively, meaning they will buy the hypercert when the impact will be done. And with this hypercert, they can exchange it with other people, trade it with other funders. So the benefits that I found it in a pitch deck. It's an example from one of the founder of hypercerts. So a benefit for a trader, it's that there will be buyers. The hypothesis is that there will be buyers that want to buy this hypercert because they see because they value the conceptual development of a successful, impactful project they really like. So how I understood it is like a big fan of a project, like a big fan of an impactful project would say, I like so much this project that I really want to buy this hypercert that represents the impact of my preferred project. I think, yeah. Then the second is for evaluators. There are a lot of different data on the certificates, so they can make impact assessments that are very well defined. There is, I didn't find in the anywhere some things that say how are paid evaluators. I'm interested about that because I don't know how. For donors, what could be the benefits? They talk a lot about the fact that having an hypercert is like bragging, having bragging rights. And they talked about having a trophy. It's like having a Rolex and showing it to your friend. So I was very surprised because, for example, I wouldn't be so interested by that. I would, as a donor, I would be more interested about the data and the precision of the hypercert, but not necessarily to show it to my friends or things like that. But they talk a lot about it in their presentations. And for the contributors, they say that they will be incentivized. They will incentivize talents to take action because thanks to this project, it will increase their chance of being rewarded. So here we have another diagram to explain a bit how it works. So the contributor creates a certificate, and then you need an impact, like a kind of impact investor, or to fund this first hypercert, and it's before the impact. So it's they take on their shoulders a risk with the contributor. So they buy it, but they expect that after the impact, the public, made up of philanthropists, organizations, individuals that really like the impact, would want to buy back this hypercert and fund. And it's here that you have a cash flow at the end, which is retroactive. No. So quickly, the buy pressure will come from, so their hypothesis is that to create this impact market is first to create price competition, like for example, partnering with VitaDAO to create a price competition, and the retrospective funder receives the hypercerts from the retrospective funder receives the hypercert from the winner of the competition. And then they expect that seeing that funders, that everyone will be a bit more getting used to retroactive funding and see the benefit of not betting on the future anymore, and we want to buy hypercerts, retroactive hypercerts. And then their timeline, I think it's important because I thought that today we could create an hypercert, but actually it's not yet available. So the roadmap a bit, it's like in the Q1 of 2023, it will be more about audition of the smart contract, compliance checks. They will launch it on mainnet. We can expect hackathons, program recruitment, integration with Gitcoin, and upcoming capabilities, merge plus split evaluation. And it will be more in Q3 that there will be an estimation of 50 million allocated via hypercerts. And they say that they do not have business model in sight. And beyond, the world has a new revolutionary coordination system, according to them. What you can do now, what we can do as contributors or as funders or evaluators, we can join their Telegram, follow them on Twitter, and they are actively looking for evaluators, funders, contributors of impact projects, and they need a user scenario, user case. No, user scenario we can understand. Yeah. So I mean, they need us. Okay, and we can discuss. So I play with. I made those little avatars, and I thought that when we were discussing, if one moment we want to create a scenario, we can copy and paste that and place it on the board, like on the playground. So yeah, so that's it. Before we start, so when we will discuss, you can take notes, you can put some post-it, write some sound bites, some ideas that you have, or share some resources here. And that's it for me. Yeah. Do you have questions?
I have a ton of questions.
Yeah.
Then that was great. I think, and also they seem to not know exactly what the business model is yet. So it's very much an experiment trying to figure out what it's going to be. I guess what's going to make people want hypercert, like I think the buy pressure piece is like the key to getting that to making anyone care. And where will they be traded? Will it be like, we'll have like a hypercert marketplace to trade these things, or how will like the commerce kind of piece of it work?
I think if I remember correctly, they mentioned it's going to be like a ERC 1155. So it should be compatible with all like OpenSea and all
Got
the
it.
other NFT marketplaces. And but then they are adding some extra like special things. So in a longer time frame, they want to build their own marketplace.
Marketplace, yeah, that would make sense, like an impact marketplace.
You can have a specific marketplace, but you also can have eventually sort of mini marketplace for my own impact certificate I want to sell. That's also
Yep.
possible.
Yeah,
And it can be for sale on these three types, like it can be OpenSea or generalist NFT marketplace. It can be a special hypercerts marketplace, or my own hypercert marketplace.
whatever.
Yeah.
Mhm. I think it's that like virtue signaling, which is like, that's the bragging rights piece. I think that'll be really important to like making people care. Because he had talked about like, yeah, you can put it on your Tinder profile. Kind of just like, I'm a good person. Look how many hypercerts I have.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Like, totally important.
I think it's going to be super interesting to see like how these uh, even like 10% of one certificate of impact can actually eventually be like valued, and eventually you buy one and then you sell it at a little higher price. That's going to be interesting to see.
Mhm.
Mm.
I have a question. I do apologize that my camera is off. Et aussi, nous sommes, il y a pas mal de francophonie sur cette Zoom, huh? It sounds like there's a few French speakers.
You're right.
Yeah, c'est génial. Bon, je suis américaine, mais je suis en France aussi, donc I'm in France too. Anyway, so can I ask a question? So I didn't realize that it sounds, I mean, if these are ERC 1155s, they're basically NFTs that are kind of like carbon, not really carbon credits, but kind of similar, like sort of on-chain
Mhm.
validators. Am I getting that right? And then also, and sorry, a couple questions. Also, when you guys say Kevin, do you mean Kevin Owaki?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And then, yeah, I guess I did hear him talk about this last summer here in Paris at the Sustainable Blockchain Summit in July. Yeah. And so then I guess the last thing is, so this is going to be centrally controlled, like kind of like it's like the Bored Apes, but it's for impact. Is that right? It's gonna be kind of like a team. Whoever's developing this is gonna like this isn't just a blanket like this isn't a form. This isn't ERC 1155 or ERC 72. It's not like a form of something. It's an actual collection of something that somebody's going to own and control and sell to others. Am I getting that correct?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I mean, okay, so it's kind of a modified ERC 1155, and that's okay. Like it's just a specific type of NFT. That's it. That's an NFT, obviously. That can be split and then how do you say that, merged somehow. So that's kind of already working. That's what they show in the pilot that they have on Gertie testnet. But yeah, that's what I know.
I would guess it's going to be more like they will create a protocol, but then anyone can use it, to
So, okay, so that's interesting. So if it's a protocol, All right, so let's just use some random example. If I were a solar farm owner,
Mhm.
then would I be able to basically mint my own hypercerts and sell that on OpenSea?
Mm. Yeah, that's my understanding.
Yeah,
Yes,
me
it's
too.
true, yeah.
Seems like it.
Yeah. They say that you can integrate it with other mechanism, and it's like a primitive, so a very basic tool that you can integrate where you want. So in your project too.
I mean, as a contributor, you can obviously like create one
Mhm.
on your own. But then it definitely need some form of evaluation.
Mhm.
And this can be done in many different ways, right?
Yeah.
That's where the validators come in, but then they'll have to be like educated and about specific types of impacts. So there'll be like the carbon people, the fair trade wages people, the like all these different types of. Wouldn't that have to be the case?
Yeah,
Depending on what
Mm.
what type of impact you're evaluating.
you would need to have like the knowledge
Yeah.
related to the area being evaluated. Yeah, that's the part that is the least clear to me, the evaluators.
Evaluators.
Mm,
How are they compensated?
I don't
Mhm.
know.
Well,
Is
they
it
can-
part of the
And how are they punished if they are corrupt?
That's a good question. Yeah.
I think that's kind of somehow actually the case in this carbon credit markets. Like it's kind of weird and sometimes kind of scammy as well. I'm not a specialist in carbon credits. I probably should dig a bit more in this, but I mean I've heard that some are really scammy. So
Yeah,
it's going
I'm
to
sure.
be the exact same. It's going to be the exact same for these hypercerts, I think. So it all depends on the entity that sort of take the responsibility of evaluating these things. It can be a company. Why not? Why not? But then, what are the criteria, for instance, to evaluate this impact or expected impact?
There is also it feels like the hypothesis is that there will be a relationship that will be built between the funders and the evaluators, and the more when the time goes by, a trustful relationship will occur when they will see that, okay, this evaluator is not always saying this is really great. Sometimes he's saying that it's not good, so I can trust him, and also he is right when he's anticipating the impact, and the impact really happen as they said. You can trust these evaluators. So it's like a loop where you finally trust some evaluators. Like you can say, oh, KitCon DAO evaluates this hypercert. I trust them, so I will buy this hypercert. But yeah, I feel like it's not enough to trust, but they say that they hope so.
I think that there is a lot of risks for corruption in this area, because you could potentially like pay the evaluator to say like the projects that you funded are good, because then their price or value will go up, and you share with them the profits or something. So it's I don't know, it's interesting to figure out how they plan to do that.
Yes. And
I
I mean,
also wonder, sorry,
no, go on.
about this. It's kind of fussy, like the funders. It's like they say like they're donors, but they're not really donors. They're investors because they're getting something back. And it's sort of like equity because they can sell it later or expect some kind of cash flow. So I don't know. I want like these things are going to be like securities probably.
Hmm.
So I don't know legally how does that work?
Yeah, for anybody who's an American, that's a big deal if it's a security. And I
Why
think,
is that?
sorry.
Why is that? Why it's a big deal?
Oh, well, because you can go to jail.
Hmm.
You can't, yeah, it's so strict. And they're gonna, after this SBF fiasco, seems like they're gonna crack down even harder in 2023.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. I'm not on the government side at all, but that's why we've been really caught. That's why at Frontera, we haven't even released a token because we're just being, out of an abundance of caution. It's interesting too, the other point that Julian, you raised about carbon credits. I know that I don't know, I'm not an expert, but I know that they have this thing called an MRV. I forget what it stands for, but they created that so that something like putting the carbon credit purchases on the blockchain, precisely because people were double selling carbon credits. So like the people who were agents and marketing carbon credits were double and sometimes triple selling them. So they had 100 say if you had 100 carbon credits, you sell 100 carbon credits to Air France, and then you sell another 100 carbon credits to Maersk. So I forget what MRV stands for, but I think they were trying to address that. So you're right. There has been a lot of abuse of the system. It's true.
Wait, of which system? You mean the carbon credits as they exist today?
The carbon credits as they have existed, and I think they're trying to address that through MRVs, which, as I understand it, and I'm not an expert, as I understand it, is basically carbon credits on chain, so that you can't duplicate one carbon credit. It's more of a Lego block. It's not a it's a non-fungible token, basically.
Right. When
Yeah,
you
I
say
mean,
they are trying to do that, you are talking about who, like the people doing this hypercerts?
no, about carbon credits, like that kind of obviously happened in the past where people, I mean, for to get back to hypercert, like imagine I build a school, I create a school, and so I create my hypercert, I have 100%, I sell part of it, and then I create another one from the same action. Then there's something that just don't work here.
Yeah.
So if I have two hypercerts for the same school I've built, well, it doesn't work.
Also, for me, there was something unclear. It's like, how do we decide the price of the hypercert? Is it the person that creates the impact that says like, I sell it at this price? Or is it more like a donation where the donor says like, I want to give you this amount?
That's a good question. And did like, say you go back to the building the school thing, say you're building a school, like, do you like connect the value of the hypercerts to like what it costs to build the school?
I guess so. I guess so. Eventually time or
Yeah.
other kind of
Time,
resources.
materials or whatever.
Yep.
Mhm. Yeah. And then will the seller be taxed for that sale?
Well, legally, I mean, it's so, you know, brand new that it's really hard to say. Like I would say in the NFT space, like you have, you know, you have artwork, so that should be like, you know, the legal stuff connected with art, or it can be a financial instrument. Then you have these rules. But for these hypercerts, it's kind of brand new, so we don't really know. We don't really know, that's for sure. But yeah. um,
Hmm.
but yeah, we can. It's
So,
still to be built, even from a legal standpoint. Yeah,
Mhm.
specific asset, like sort of
yeah.
new asset class or something. It's
I think it's definitely a new asset class,
mm,
seemingly,
Hmm. Yeah.
which makes it quite interesting.
yeah,
Oh,
and especially with, you know, in connection with DAOs, in my opinion, because when you have a DAO proposal, then you already have a certain number of people that sort of took the time to evaluate somehow, and so that already gives a bit of value to these certificates, in my opinion, rather than as opposed to a company saying, okay, this is a hypercert, buy it. That's
Hmm. Can you
so that's-
repeat what gives it value already?
well, the fact that you have several DAO members who already voted to fund a specific action. You see what I mean?
Okay. Yeah,
So
in this
that's
case,
already
we do
a
like
kind of validation, evaluation somehow. But
mhm.
then it depends. Or it depends on who are these members.
Yeah.
That's another question. But
Yeah. And then I'm concerned that maybe this could incentivize people to only uh, pursue things that are being funded that have like a price, you know,
mhm.
and instead of following other exploratory avenues that nobody is funding right now. So I don't know, like now everyone seems to be like, oh, longevity, right? But if you could probably be like, oh, I will do something in longevity because there's a lot of money there, right? But maybe otherwise you would have done something different that potentially would have been more impactful because nobody else is looking at it. And another way of saying it, if there are prices of money, that centralizes attention of the talent around this area.
Well, that's a really good question. That's what I've been discussing with them, is because we're all in on fusion energy. And so in fact, right now I'm doing a series of workshops with funding from Filecoin Foundation on fusion energy and climate fusion energy as a climate solution. And the French people here would know about fusion energy because of ITER down in near Aix-en-Provence. And but right now like just today, the Department of Energy had a huge announcement. The National Ignition Facility has had breakthrough today. I mean, today is a huge day in energy history, actually, coincidentally. So yeah, so that's what I've been talking to them to, I mean, that's the conversations I've been trying to have, but is about fusion energy. But so, you're absolutely right, because so much funding went into what, $240 million went into longevity research from the Ethereum Foundation through, directly to Methuselah. Yeah, I've been trying to drum up that kind of interest in fusion energy as a DAO, and I haven't gotten any interest yet, not to that level. But that's why we're interested in hypercerts. But but this is interesting, because I didn't think that there was one person or even a team behind it. I thought it was just kind of like an open protocol. I mean, it does change something. It does change it a bit. Like Demeter, people in France would know that bio, organic labeling, like Demeter is a pretty high quality organic label. And like, yeah, who evaluates them, who created that label, who gives it validity. It does have validity, so obviously people did that, but then obviously I guess there was a group behind it to achieve that. So that's what hypercerts is. That's really interesting. That's a huge move. It's cornering a huge part of the market, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I think it it had to be built. So I mean, it's great. I've been hearing about impact certificate for quite a long time, but now it's kind of there, and so it, we can sort of take advantage of that.
Yeah, and also do it do it right.
Yeah.
Because like this year, I suppose most of you know about the founder of WeWork, who pretty much scammed everyone. And his new startup, which got founded by, financed by Silicon Valley VCs, is about crypto and carbon credits. And so, I mean, potentially they're entering into this area because they see a potential to scam.
I think with hypercerts is going to be pretty hard to avoid that, I think. But maybe some of these hypercerts, like when you can see that it was verified by this entity or this company, this DAO, then it can have the beginning of a value, and yeah, that's beginning of something. But but some others for sure will be like, obviously, sort of fake certificates for sure. And these fakes, or kind of fake certificate, will be purchased also. But yeah, it's not because you are a hypercert that you're all of a sudden 100% reliable and true. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the potential for scam is obviously big, and that's probably the biggest thing they need to sort through. But I like the idea of a business or organization being rewarded for doing the right thing. And those types of companies, if you're going to walk the walk, then you're going to get the funding, like kind of how like Gitcoin grants does, like their quadratic funding. I mean, it's different, but how the companies that have more people behind them, they get all the money, they get more of the money. So it's just a way of being able to, sorry, I'm just like thinking as I'm talking. Just being rewarded for doing the right thing. And then who determines what's the right thing, I guess. And how do you attribute value to that? Like whoever that entity is, and is that going to be decentralized, and who's the hypercerts police?
Yeah.
That was rambling.
I think the interesting thing is that you could be that person also.
Yeah.
Like the 3 roles mentioned by Pauline, like you can play all of them.
Mhm.
You can be like, hey, I want to finance fusion research, so I put some money into this pool and it will be attributed to projects that are doing cool things. Or you can be like, hey, I want to be like a verifier of things in this area that I know about, and potentially get paid through that. Or
But we're not sure how.
yeah.
Mm. But sometimes also I'm wondering if you are just a contributor. At the end, you have, if we come back to this, right here. At the end, if you have a public that really like your impact, your project, they will give the money to buy this hypercerts that belongs to funders and not necessarily to contributors. So I'm wondering, yeah, it means like the money not necessarily come back to the contributor.
No, because you don't have to give all the hypercert to the investors. You can sell like 20% or something.
You can like fractionalize it, right?
Yeah.
In different
Yeah.
ways.
I mean, for me, it's like equity in a startup.
Mhm. Is the ERC 1155, is that type of token able to fractionalize?
Yeah.
They say that it's non-fungible and semi-fungible.
Well, also, to use an example, I just minted some badges for our for Frontier Registry, which is it's a decentralized science project. So I minted 3 ERC 721s just for my core dev team, and then I went and minted 1155s, which I did put a number on them. I put it to 223 for this edition, which is a low number, but I didn't have to put a number on it. I could just let people mint from the minting page until the cows come home. So that's the difference between ERC 721 and ERC 1155. 1155s are basically unlimited, whereas the 721s are usually are considered one of ones. There's only one. So that's, but I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer here. Because I'm really excited about this project and I really want to find some use cases. And I have utmost respect for Owaki and Gitcoin. And in fact, I'm in one of their rounds right now. I'm in one of their simulation rounds. So I'm forever grateful to them and in awe of what they've accomplished, especially what they're doing right now with UNICEF. Yeah, I'm absolutely in awe. So if anybody's going to be a good shepherd of this, it would be him, it would be them. But then again, I think we're wise to look at all the potential
Yeah.
pitfalls. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And
Have you guys been on one
and
of
also,
their town halls?
Mhm.
Or have anyone been on one of their community calls?
For hypercerts?
Mhm.
No,
Not yet.
not yet.
I think I saw there was one in November, but I'm kind of waiting for the second
Yeah.
one.
But Paige, you are in the simulation. You mean that you will. What does that mean exactly? You will create a first hypercert with them, with their help.
Oh no, it's the Gitcoin simulation round. So they're doing they transition to open protocol, and so they're doing this alpha round with UNICEF, which just started, right? So it's going from the 9th to the 21st. But then after that, in January, they selected a few groups, and mine is a climate related one. It's funding fusion energy as a climate solution. That's the name of the grant. And I was already in a past round, and so that's in January, and they're calling it a simulation round because they're still going to kind of try to get the kinks out of it. So they're still kind of working through before they unleash it on the open public. So I'm really happy. I think they chose like 10 groups of about 10 to go in that round, which is already a lot. It's already a lot of people. Hey, by the way, I'm gonna leave, if it's all right with everybody, I'm gonna leave my email address in the chat, and because I gotta jump off at 9. But if anybody wants to come on my workshop series, which is generally on Thursdays, I've got a few more, and talk about hypercerts, I would love it.
We can put it here in the resources, like a link to your
Email.
Yeah.
no, to the workshop. Yeah, or the email also. How does that sound?
Okay, all right, that sounds good. Let me
Or maybe just leave it in the chat if it's easier for you.
My website, FrontierDAO, the DAO website, frontierdao.xyz, I'm more than happy to leave on one of these Miro stickies. I think I put that in the chat already. And my email address I'll give to you guys personally here. Yeah, FrontierDAO. Yeah, because the workshop series is actually on that page, facts and projects. You can find the workshop series there.
Okay, so if I go to this website, I find the workshops.
Yeah, and also Twitter at FrontierDAO. It's pinned. The workshop series is pinned there. Yeah, this has been a great conversation, you guys. I've learned a whole lot.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, thank you. I have to hop off too, but this was great. Hopefully we can continue the conversation and figuring out how we can all use this potentially. Right.
Okay. So Coca just arrived.
No, she's here since.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Earlier. Was.
Juan, you just didn't notice me, that's all.
Well, you didn't say anything. Julian, do you have to go also, or can you stay a bit more?
I still have a bit of time, but
okay.
I just want to share the note of Ray. It's a friend from Kernel, and he couldn't come today, so I would like to share his perspective, and maybe we can, if we have some ideas about that, we can share it right now. So he was saying that I'm somewhere between moderately and extremely skeptical of hypercerts, because most of what we care about it's embedded in a complex system, and trying to reduce something complex to a simple measure creates incentives to ignore unintended consequences. That is to say, the same incentives which cause the single-minded pursuit of profits to produce numerous negative externalities can happen with other measures too. I think this creates a huge adverse selection problem where hypercerts will appear to be most successful wherever the negative externalities that emerge can be concealed. And it will inevitably happen in the same way that it does with profits by shifting the disregarded consequences onto external stakeholders outside the scope of the measure of success.
Mhm.
Yeah. Hmm. It's hard to have accurate information about complex processes like this.
Yeah, also I guess one of the strengths of this kind of project is that it's modular, and meaning that because like recently I've been playing around with the Open Zeppelin's governor contract, and I was surprised on the kind of crazy things that you can do, because you can plug it, so you can plug your basically your DAO with and you can, you know, on a vote you can trigger a certain number of things, including the creation of a hypercert. So I mean, in my view, that's a super interesting thing to explore and to, you know, give a try. So I think I actually will use it on 2 different projects actually. But anyway.
Can you tell us a bit about what you have in mind to do?
No. This I mean, this the beginning of a DAO, obviously, which will be focused on Web3 devs and you know, building integrations. So you know, coding, you know, when we see that, you know, you have this project and that project, that would be super relevant if they work together, then we just code it. That's one thing. And then there's another one that's more focused on specific causes, and there again I think we can kind of use the same techniques. So that would be a governor DAO contracts combined with hypercerts. Why not? Yeah, just ideas for now. Testing, at least with testing all this.
Sounds good. Hmm.
Julian, what did you say automatically creates a hypercert? What was the platform you mentioned?
Oh, that's I've been like yesterday and today I've been testing a contract called governor contract, and it's a contract or a set of contracts provided by Open Zeppelin, and it's basically Open Zeppelin's DAO contracts.
Oh,
Yeah, and that works pretty well. It's not that easy to deploy if you're not familiar with the Web3 technical stuff,
yeah.
but once it's out there, it's pretty powerful. And you also have an interface for these kind of DAOs that's called tally.xyz.
Mm,
And so I mean, you know, just testing it out, I found it pretty powerful.
So you're talking about integrating this with the hypercerts.
Yes, because as an sort of outcome of a proposal, you can, at least in Tally or using the Open Zeppelin governor contracts, you can you know, when you submit a proposal, you can add several actions to be executed when the proposal passes, when it gets voted. And so it can be a simple value transfer from, you know, from the DAO to the person, to the beneficiary, the person who asked for anything. But you also can add, and you can add up to 10 different actions, and one of these actions could definitely be the mint of a hypercert. So that's I mean, technically that's doable. That's just what I say. And I kind of almost did it today. I mean, I had for example, I had one proposal that triggered the mint of an NFT. So it definitely can also trigger the creation of a hypercert. You know, so that's where this you know, this the whole modularity thing is really
That's
kind of impressive, actually.
I feel like my my understanding of what the hypercert wants to accomplish is very minimal. I'm like trying to understand, and I'm like, what's so different than? Yeah, I feel like my knowledge is limited.
What's the difference from what?
Like what? So is it first the first point of clarity is like, is it Gitcoin that initiated this hypercert?
I think
Mm-hmm.
no, I think
Protocol
it's
Lab.
yeah, I think it's
Protocol Labs
it's an initiative from both Protocol Labs and Gitcoin. I
and
think. Yeah, but I actually remember Juan Bennett himself talking about at some previous hackathon in 2021 in Paris. I think he said something like, "Oh, it would be great to build these impact certificates," and yeah, that already, you know, kind of woke me up at that point.
So then what's the difference between the hypercert and an impact certificate? Or the hypercert is the impact certificate that has ever been created?
As I understand it, it is a way to, yeah, a hypercert is an impact certificate for me, but
yeah, but in the shape of a token that you can fractionalize and sell and exchange, etc. And then there is also the whole issue of verification, right? Verifying the impact.
Yes.
Yeah, I
It's
feel like
always the case.
Yeah.
What?
I was saying that, which was always the case.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
And by the way, we also want to verify. We want to verify if it actually happened on the ground, and we also want to verify if it wasn't already submitted in some other system, like it shouldn't be like, for instance, one of the persons here mentioned like something about fusion sort of breakthrough like happening a few hours ago, obviously.
Yes.
So there you have one research team okay, who worked on that. And so I think they definitely should issue a certificate of impact or hypercert. And but they should also maybe not how to say that, they shouldn't do that twice. Like they they create their hypercert once and not twice. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, it's not easy to verify that.
And we should be able to verify. I mean, this research team behind that fusion energy breakthrough, etc. This is kind of already verified because they have their own process, and they were able to show something, and they have the whole verification process of their own, and that's I don't know what it's worth, but they achieved something, obviously. So
Yeah. But it's not like an independent team, like
yeah,
garage. It's like the
yeah.
one of the labs from the government of the US.
Okay, but they can also issue this kind of certificate of impact. That's
issue it to who? To the government?
no, I mean the team would issue like the 100% of certificate of impact or hypercert, and then they would maybe keep, each member of the team would eventually keep 1%, and then they just basically sell all the rest to fund their, to fund their, upcoming activities. Or, I mean, because the impact is kind of already there, sort of, right? So, and I'm sure the program maybe, cost a lot of money somehow. So they can use the proceeds of the hypercerts sales to sort of give, I don't know, they can do what they like with it, but no, you see what I mean? No.
Yes, but it's not like they financed it. It is financed by the US government.
Well, then you just want to give the I don't know, you have 10% for the team, and then you would give the 90% to the original funder then. Why not?
I don't know. Why not?
Yeah, why not? That's a sort of possibility. And then this entity can then sell it at a higher price. So why not? Everything's possible.
What I don't know is like, why would you buy it?
Oh, as Pauline said in the beginning, I think that you have a lot of people and companies who definitely want to brag and show that they're somehow involved in making the world a better place. That's one, and maybe also some traders who would who think they can sell it at a higher price. So that's the buy pressure, I guess Kevin was talking about, and there probably are maybe some other ways to increase that buy pressure for this kind of assets. So
to me, the only reason why I would buy an hypercert is not at all for bragging, but because there is details on the hypercert, and
Yeah.
what Kokeb said earlier about what's the difference, for example, with Gitcoin grants. I mean, for any project, I could give some money or because they've made an impact. But here I feel with hypercerts, you have a little bit more precision on the period. You can fractionalize on different quarter of your year or your activities, and it's very precise. As a donor, you can feel like, okay, my money is going on the first quarter of this project, and that's really interesting. And also in the other place, as a contributor, it's really interesting for us to say, okay, we are creating this hypercert for this period, and it's not this information is not lost in a blurry description of Gitcoin grants, for example. And it's what I feel I felt with Gitcoin grant, like you can update, of course, but it's not really precise. People don't know how you will use the money. They don't know where the donation will go. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why again it's like super important, obviously, to have this at least be like sort of hyper transparent on the evaluation process. In my opinion, that's the key part. And like evaluation and verification, that's the I think the most important part.
I mean, I understand the interest of being the first person that buys the thing or that finances something, but
Yeah.
but the idea that there will be like a secondary market of people that trade these things, I'm a bit skeptical about that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Hey,
we'll
guys.
see.
Hello. Right. Great.
I think we definitely should give it a try and see what can happen. Like if for example, you know, the Gitcoin, they recently announced this sort of UNICEF thing.
Yeah.
In partnership with UNICEF, and I think Consensus did something equivalent before, but it might be totally different. But at least, I mean, that can be a good occasion to start to issue these certificates and sort of keep track of that and see what can happen on the secondary market. As you said, it's not going to be easy, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a specific action, like I build a school for kids in this or that country, and you have people buying some shares of this certificate, and then making and then manage to make some profit over that on the secondary market. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, but why would you buy in the secondary market something instead of saying like, okay, this group of people did something cool, I will finance their next project?
No, you don't want to finance the next project. You want to own the impact itself. You know.
Yeah.
What does that even mean, to own the impact?
Yeah, that's super weird. I know.
Because it's not a right that you can like own it and claim that it is your property. It's just attribution, right? All secondary markets end up being financialized, right? Where people, instead of directly putting money into something, they speculate and they look for arbitrage and changes in price. They're no longer interested in the fundamental underlying good. They're interested in expectations for the trajectory of price.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's a bad thing here.
Well, it's getting away from impact and just being about financialization. It's as plain as that.
Yeah. If
Yeah,
people
but
are putting all their attention and energy into playing volatility games and all of that instead of like actually trying to find this new impact, I think that's a bad thing.
that's interesting. Yeah, that's definitely interesting.
Because like, for example, let's say somebody did something that was good and had an impact 10 years ago. And then now we are just trading that impact that already happened. But in the present, nobody else is creating new impact. That's a stupid thing.
Okay. Okay. That's interesting.
Well, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but it could.
Well, so one way to think about it is like, if we abstract away from impact and think about like a tangible asset, right? If a developer erects a building, like they have created a real asset. Now, whether it's an office building or a school or a hospital or condominiums, like money was deployed and a real asset has been created. And for as long as that structure stands, like it provides a flow of shelter, of workspace, whatever it is for people, and that's useful. Now, what can happen with buildings oftentimes is that their prices just gradually go up. Why? Primarily just because more money is available and people take out debt and they buy up the price and they speculate. I'll buy it for more than it costs to build it, and I hope to sell it later for even more in the future. The exact same building is still there. There's no additional value that's been created. It's just a paper value due to the inflation of currency. And it would still be that same thing if we're talking about impact instead of the built environment. Like there's actually real impact that was done. And then anything about changing the so-called price that represents something related to that impact is a paper fiction, right? If you fed someone, you had impact. If you saved a part of a rainforest from destruction, you had impact for a time being. But then to forward project the value of that is actually just a game.
Yeah.
It's not really useful.
Yeah, I feel the
I
same.
think I kind of agree. I kind of agree with you that something that's definitely something to keep in mind if we want to sort of build anything with these hypercerts. Yeah, that's definitely to keep in mind.
They should perhaps extinguish in some way, right? You put money in, and it's like putting energy into something to do work. Like the work is accomplished and the energy is consumed. Like there's no recirculation of the energy. It's been deployed. You can have a record of it, the way that the utility company will send you a bill for how much electricity you used. There is that sort of artifact, but something was used up and something was accomplished, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean but that's already something. Like if I build a school, so I have the sort of property right for this building, and I can also issue that certificate of impact because we know that there are a lot of, like, we need to improve education sort of everywhere, right? So and so, well, if I can sell this this hypercert, I mean, why not? Yeah.
Well, okay, but so if someone builds a school, that's one type of impact. if the school continues to operate and produces a steady stream of graduates, that's a different impact. It should be a different hypercert because they're just fundamentally two different things. Like no circumstance should a particular hypercert just be reinterpreted to mean something else than what it did before, that is passed down from party to party.
Yeah. And why would they want to do it? Let's imagine I go to a restaurant and have a meal, and then I have a receipt.
Mhm.
I sell you the receipt, Julian. It's a proof that there was an impact that I received. I had the meal.
Mm,
But then, like, why would you buy that?
yeah, for sure. Why would I buy your receipt? That's for sure. I mean, I wouldn't buy it. Except maybe, you know, then I have my own criterias, right? Right, that's a long list of criteria, like the restaurant should respect this or that.
Yes, you want to buy the receipt if there is an impact on you, Julien. If one is happy, since it's your friend, he will be happy with you, and you will be happy at the end. The idea is that in some way it will impact you.
No, but maybe the fact that Juan bought a meal in that restaurant, it actually helps, you know, somehow for some sort of greater cause, like I don't know, climate justice, something, because all the food is local and organic, etc. So maybe, but the impact is not huge. Like the impact of Juan buying a meal there is not huge, but it's you know, it's maybe it's something, you know, maybe you can issue hypercerts from people buying this kind of
It's like, I mean, maybe like you could buy it because you think like, okay, I want to support Juan to, I don't know, to eat well or some shit, right?
yeah.
But okay, but then here the theory is that someone else will buy it from you, and then someone else will buy it from them because why? Why would they do that?
Yeah. To me, it's why there is the word fan that come here. Like to me, the person that will buy and buy and buy, it's only fan that will really like this project, or really like you like I don't know, Star Wars and things like that. You are able to buy anything, any t-shirt, any goodies at a very high price just because you are a fan of a project. And I think that impactful projects have a lot of communities, and inside these communities there are a lot of fans.
Yes, but if you are a fan of this thing, why would you not buy it directly from them? Buy a new one.
Yeah, that's what I want you to say. I can go to that restaurant myself and have my own impact, and so I don't have to buy your certificate of impact from that receipt.
Exactly.
But if I'm lazy, maybe I just want to sort of, why not?
Yeah.
So I would support this action somehow. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. This hypercert, I don't know.
But I think in generally speaking,
positive stuff too much.
yeah, generally speaking, from what I saw in the sort of non-profit stuff, the most important for people who donate or buy these assets is to be 100% sure that the money is well spent. That's one important one important criteria for me as a eventual funder or donor or buyer.
Yeah.
So that's why the evaluation and verification process is absolutely key in my opinion.
Mhm. If you care about the impact, really.
Mm.
If you are like there to speculate, then you don't care.
These ones. I think I think speculation is something you can't prevent, I think.
No, I don't think you can prevent it, but I don't see why people would want to speculate with this thing in particular. You know, that there is like historical precedent of people speculating with art, because
Mhm.
all around in the 20th century, there has been the art industry, and they created a business out of this that was originally not a business, but they created. So there is a precedent. But like to trade like the receipt for a meal, that I don't know. For me, I don't know if it's realistic to expect that there will be speculators doing this.
If you really do it for the impact, no need to make it tradable. It's just a donation.
Maybe if you own 1% of this action, then you have access to other stuff. That's also what NFTs enable. So
Yeah, benefits like Patreon.
Yeah, that could be. You have like access to the person or something.
yeah.
What I thought also as an idea when I was doing this research, suddenly I was like, oh, what about creating a wish list? Like to say like, okay, Juan and I need this material of for like a camera to make our video for the podcast. So we could create this list and people could buy very specific material to just to help us. And to me, it's the same thing of not knowing where your money is going. Like if it's very specific and very precise, like there is a kind of trust relationship between the donor and the contributors.
Yeah.
I don't think I would buy this certificate of impact.
No, but maybe it's not a good idea to say it's a wish list, but to say like you will finance a documentary, you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
To
it
do a
also
documentary,
depends.
we need like a camera and we need like this and this and this, right?
It also depends. I mean, yeah. Say we have a sort of education DAO, right? We have an education DAO. I'm an evaluator at education DAO. And you're telling me that you want to shoot a documentary to be released in the future about education, I won't vote for that. That's for sure. If you show me that if you already have it and it's good and I like it, then maybe yes. Then maybe I could vote for that, I guess. I don't know. It's just brainstorming.
Then why don't I just sell you
Yeah.
the documentary? You pay to watch it and that's it.
Yeah.
Or I put it for free on YouTube and I get money from advertisements.
At least I must be sure that it's not double or triple issued as a certificate, but I don't know. I don't know. But yeah. Yeah. But maybe that certificate of, for instance, that certificate of impact would allow me to access to the content itself. Why not? So that's kind of VOD, VOD NFT. We developed that recently for a movie distribution company, and so yeah, we have that already in place. So like, if you have this, if you have the if you can prove that you supported the production of the movie, well, yeah, I have for sure have access to the movie even before the others. So yeah, why not? Why not?
Yeah, but why is that a better business model than Netflix, for example?
It's not better, it's just complementary. I see that's the way I see it. It's complementary to other profits this documentary could make. I'm not a specialist, obviously.
No, I mean, I guess I understand that, okay, I buy it because I want to consume it, because I need it, because I'm the final consumer. But like buying it so that then I can trade it and sell it to somebody else, etc., etc. For me, that's like, maybe because I'm not from Wall Street.
It's probably, these hypercerts are probably going to be in addition to existing stuff. And so that would be like one more source of revenue. And why not? If done well, why not?
Yeah. Yeah, why not? I think it's too early to know, but I'm curious to see where it will go.
Yeah. But it's not too early to test.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm mostly curious about the whole verification process.
Yeah, for sure. That's the key part. That's the key part. Who are the people who verify these things, and what do we verify? Do we have a list of criteria? Do we have a specific objective?
Yeah. And how do we know they're being honest?
This is a complex topic, right?
Yeah.
So there's a whole discipline of monitoring and evaluation, or sometimes called monitoring, evaluation, and research, or even monitoring, evaluation, research, and learning, where people have specific methodologies and best practices for evaluating impact orgs, and understanding what it is that they say that they're doing, and getting a sense of how effective are they at doing it, and what are the total consequences of doing it. I mean, most of the impact world is very sophisticated, and there has been sophistication for a long time about like developing a multi-dimensional theory of change, that if you do some particular program as an intervention, that it has several different effects that may flow of it, and only some of those things may be subject to quantitative evaluation, or occasionally none of them are easily quantitatively evaluated. It is all qualitative, and so the verification might sometimes all the way reduce down to something called like with people, it might be the most significant change technique, where you literally ask, every person, well, what's the best thing that we've managed to accomplish around here? And, you do that every day, and every week you bring people together, and they all answer the question together, and then people decide which opinion out of all the people that responded to that question truly hit on what was the most important thing that was accomplished that made a difference. Because if everybody that was supposed to be helped agrees that that was the most significant thing, then that is the ultimate arbiter of truth, is that there was somebody that you were trying to help, a particular community, and the people in the community say, this is the thing that made the biggest difference. It's very messy and it's entirely qualitative, but what can be done is to record those conversations and put it on video and embed a video into an online report. And then the answer boils down to that. It may not lend itself to something strictly quantitative like hypercerts, but if somebody wants to know what the impact is, that becomes the answer. Because you say, well, this is how we try to figure out whether we're doing good or not, and these are what the people that we're helping tell us, and who can better say whether we had an impact or not than the people we were trying to help. It is ultimately the answer, no matter how subjective and fuzzy that it is.
Yeah. And then again, there we have the potential problem that people are not being truthful. Because they could be being extorted by someone else to say that this was the good thing or something,
I mean, I suppose it could hypothetically happen, but if you are bringing 50 people together in a room to all give their opinion, like the chance that they're all going to give the same lies is not really very good, right? And so you have an interesting dynamic, which is that if you ask people individually one-on-one and then they tell you something, and then you bring people together and you ask them all in a group in front of everybody else and the story changes, then you immediately know that the answers in some sense were not all true, because they don't agree with each other. So it's a very human method with a significant level of social sophistication and therefore, plausibility as a proxy for, how are we doing if you're trying to have impact.
Yeah, I feel like too often people are using this complexity to measure impact. They are using it as an excuse to not doing it, or doing it very badly. And I feel like we really need to have this common ground, even if for each project it's different. I'm sure we could create this program that say, if that's just break down all this complexity in little pieces, like if this project is a community, or if this project is that or that, ask this question, do this measurement, if this happen, or if there is this qualitative answer from the beneficiaries, add it to the measurement, like create a really complex program to measure, and at the end we would all use the same thing, but yeah, a complex program that help us to to answer to this complexity, because yeah, there are too much people. They just say, oh, we are a community, so we won't measure, but you have so much to measure. All this human relationship, and yes, tell us what you are doing. We need to know, and if you are not doing anything, we need to know also, because we are spending money with you. Yeah.
I don't know if I understood you, Pauline, but did you just say that you thought that there could be some sort of master universal evaluation framework?
Yeah, it's what I was imagining when you were speaking. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I didn't mean to give that impression, and so the link is now in Figma out of the Zoom chat for what the most significant change technique is, because it's in some ways like you could almost think of it as a technique of last resort when you're not yet sure what to measure, what you do. But so, you know, professionals who are in the monitoring and evaluation space usually become subject matter experts in very particular segments, because, you know, how you measure, you know, is heavily determined by what you're trying to measure, right? So if you're dealing with elder care, it's very different than dealing with early childhood education, or if you're trying to eradicate a particular disease, it's something else different entirely. Or if you're trying to deal with homelessness, or you know, water contamination by industrial pollutants, like there is no general framework. You have to start with the definition of the problem, and then examine the complex system that gives rise to it, and look for like leverage points of change. There's no like universal problem solving method for this, and therefore there's no universal evaluation methodology either.
But there might be some general things to avoid, you know, like to not have biases, or to, I don't know, like double blind tests and that kind of things, you know, even if you're having very different things. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, possibly not, because the context can change even if you talk about a particular type of problem. Where you do it in the world, what is the language, what is the culture, what is the climate, how you deal with a particular problem is going to differ with the social context. And so, you know, even dealing with one single particular problem, you know, what's going to work may be very different.
No, but I mean, for example, like the scientific method, right? You can apply this to many different disciplines, and the experiment will be completely different. But the way that you say, like, okay, so this is what we did, and then that somebody else has to verify it, to reproduce it, and etc., that process can be in a way generalized.
Well, that process can be right, but you know, maybe part of one of the things that has me disliking hypercerts so much, and it's not the only one, but that it is, you know, the assumption that the problem was already figured out, and now it's worth paying someone to do something. But the whole idea of doing the fundamental research, the analysis, the ethnography to understand, well, what is this problem really and where does it come from and what are the barriers to solving it, is in some sense like unpaid work that we just hope that somebody will magically decide to take a year out of their life out of the kindness of their heart to do for nothing. And that's not realistic, right? Usually, like, generating impact involves like having to go through that process of the scientific method to form hypotheses, to ask questions, to investigate, to do experiments and learn from things that don't work. You know, as you get to a point where now you could say, you know, hey, here we have a repeatable process. This works. Like, that social innovation process is not free, but it usually has to precede there actually being anything of the sort that we're talking about in the context of hypercerts, where we could say, you know, that this can in some way be standardized and quantified into units of impact. It's completely disregarding all the work that would have to go into going from just there is a problem to getting to the point where an organization has been built with the capacity to address that problem in a particular way.
Well, thanks for sharing all this, Ray. I also look into the link you just shared on the specific technique I didn't know about. I just I'll look into it.
It's definitely worth looking into, like, to understand like what the most extremely qualitative method might be when dealing with people. But then there are lots of other methods that could be looked at as well.
Yes, recently I made a general search on I just searched I think it was impact evaluation or something like that, and and you find a lot of things, and but yeah,
and also some major companies that tend to do complex engagements on behalf of global NGOs or governments and so forth. So, you know, in some sense, the evaluation that you get could be a function of the budget, right? Like, how much are you prepared to pay for the evaluation, because that's costly too, because it requires like time of human beings. They have to develop skills, and then you have to pay for their time to use them.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. I think it's not only to, you know, I think there are probably like a lot of people, individuals doing great stuff, and we want to, mark the sort of mark the moment, mark the hit, and say, okay, I did this and it has some impact. So, okay, so here's my hypercert. Do what you like with it. I don't know. It's not only companies or, GNOs and official organizations, etc. It can be very independent individuals just doing these things, and they probably deserve some attention. So
there are also some projects who say they're doing good, and they don't measure, but they are really great communicator. And at the end, if nobody evaluates what they are really doing, it can end it up with an unfair and not so right for our world to help these kind of people who are really, really great communicator and talk a lot about them and have very big community, but behind the scene, the negative externalities are not great.
Yeah, I think I have to go.
Do you
I have one
time
thought
do
to
the
share.
rating?
Julian, you might like this. I thought of one particular context where I think that something like hypercerts would be really interesting, and that is where the measure is like a real general proxy for overall human well-being. So like Bhutan, for instance, pioneered a concept that they call like gross national happiness, which is entirely a holistic measure of how people feel about where things are at and what's the quality of their life as a result of the total context of everything. And hypercerts around raising happiness would actually be pretty intriguing because it's entirely unclear what would do it, but people could experiment in different communities with, okay, what makes people happy, and what's the most efficient way to raise the level of happiness.
Yes, I think it will be interesting to see all these experiments around these hypercerts. I'm really looking forward to it, and it could be also, as you said, eventually, because people are going to have their own way to do it, and that's going to be interesting. And yeah, why not actually link it or connect it with the what you call growth national happiness thing.
Gross
It's an
national
index, right?
happiness. Yeah.
So it could be that could be definitely sort of a way to read things, a way to evaluate things. And yeah, I'm sure that it will be interesting anyway. You know, if we can even compare all these different types of impacts, maybe we get to some. Do we have to price this certificate of impact? Probably not. I don't know. It doesn't have to be connected with money. I'm not sure. I don't know. Yeah.
I agree. It may not need to be. It may be better if it isn't.
Yep. Probably. Probably. But we actually technically, like, we can sell NFTs, so we have to do something with the proceeds. So, you know, it can be, I don't know, it can even be used. Yeah.
What do you mean we have to sell NFTs?
No.
We have to do
I was just saying that technically we can, like, we can sell NFTs, right? These are like digital objects, so we can sell them. And so if we sell them, then we have to know what we want to do with the proceeds, with the money that we receive, right? And I mean, you can imagine maybe you can take this money and put it into to buy and burn some UBI tokens, or, you know, things like that. You can also imagine these kind of things, or or use that money to fund this or that group of people that are doing other great stuff. I don't know.
That makes sense. I agree with you, Julian.
This money could be, yeah, just burned. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. Ray, do we have a way to contact you in the future, or?
Yes, I'm happy to exchange contact info any way that you like. What works well?
I think there's a
Do you want to exchange email, phone number, both? I mean, I'm very reasonable about what to do.
yeah, maybe maybe an email. So we just keep I don't know, Juan, what's your I don't know.
What?
No, you can put it in the chat. We know Ray from Kernel, so we already have his contact. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I put mine in the chat already, Julian. I just don't have yours.
Thanks, perfect.
So before both of you go, can we do the evaluation or the rating of this thing? It doesn't take too long.
Sure. Let's do it.
Excellent.
How does that work exactly? Choose the stamp.
You will do it?
Yes, I will do it.
Okay.
Oh, okay, I need a stamp.
Why didn't you write your name?
I don't know. I don't have a stamp. I don't know.
If you click on E on your keyboard.
Oh, cool. Okay.
There's a smiley, but there is also the stamp.
Okay.
Then when you will finish to play with the stamp, you can propose improvement on sticky notes.
Yeah, sure. Yep.
So why do we make the boxes so big or the font in the box so small?
Yes, can you repeat? You mean the...
So the evaluation form, we have like a red, orange, yellow, I don't know, light green, dark green. And you know, there's a big mismatch between the size of the font for the labels and the color of the box itself. I'm just questioning why we had to make the point size for the labels so small.
So you're saying the text should be bigger?
Yeah,
Or the box smaller.
one or the other. Like there's like a lot of screen space is used.
Okay,
Mhm.
I don't know.
It's interesting, yeah.
The idea was so that when the people put the stamps on it, it wouldn't hide.
Yeah, we could make a try on Figma one day.
So you think we should do the text larger?
Or the box.
Or just put the big label at the top, since it's the same for each row.
Um,
You are spinning.
Yeah, trying stuff. But I definitely, I think I get back with some feedback. Do you guys know what next topic you wanna talk about, or it's going to be like around the funding topic, or
many topics.
Yes, if you see if you go,
If you click on Pauline or Juan on the top, you would go where we are.
there is a list of topics. And yes, it's about fundraising. And here we have a different
okay.
list of topics. And at the moment with one, we didn't choose any topic for next week. So if one of you wants to jump on next week, you can. And if not, with
Okay.
one, we'll find one very soon. So it's every Tuesday at the same hour.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for setting everything up, and I learned quite a lot of things today, so that's that was
Maybe
nice.
Endowments is a topic that would be interesting.
Yeah. Maybe to do with Vivek.
Mhm. Exactly.
So yeah, we need to prepare it with him.
Mm,
Okay.
Great to meet you, Julian.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
Well, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you
Okay.
both.
We found it interesting.
Thank you for joining, Ray, at the end of your call. Yeah.
Yes, I came as soon as I could.
Great. Yeah.
And that was nice. Thank you, guys.
So
Thank
see you
you.
then.
Bye.
Yeah.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.